Everybody, Ralph Havens here. And books can change lives, whether it's a book of poetry or a children's book or a book about science or a book that shatters a belief that is no longer true and something comes to light. Books can be life changing, right? And and Jen reads. She's been reading since she was a little girl, like crazy. And we're always looking for what's true, right? And for ourselves, if you've been hearing some of my stories, I found some stuff I was told about my own health wasn't true. And when I shifted things, and there was lots of things in that shifting of things, beliefs and what I thought was true about all sorts of lifestyle and nutrition and other things. I got healthy. My teeth no longer had cavities, and I no longer had anxiety and all sorts of stuff. And same with Jen. And she's read a couple of books. I was thinking, there's a guy that was an emergency room doctor, and he just kept questioning things. I love people that question stuff, and then you go, huh, that's weird. Like, the pyramids. Nassim Haramein opened my eyes to that when he was exploring the pyramids. And, we were told as little kids that slaves built the pyramids using moving big boulders with rocks and pulleys and logs, even though there was no forest back there. It was a desert. But that's what we were told. And they built these amazing pyramids that were precision made. We can't even make them now. And they also had hieroglyphics, right, in those eras. So when the archaeologists went and looked, there was all these carvings and writings and things of everything from how they made food and how they made love and how they lived and everything. But Nassim was like, but wait a minute, there's nothing about, oh yeah, and we built the pyramids last Tuesday. There's nothing in their hieroglyphics that says, hey, yeah, we built pyramids. And so as he was looking at this, he realized, wow, a lot of what we've been told about these pyramids is just not true. So, what is true? Who knows? But he opened up a whole thing like that. And he also looked at a lot of the stuff with the physics, a lot of the assumptions we've made with physics. All science is based on assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions. I used to run with a PhD guy who was on sabbatical doing work in mathematics. Went to the university. He was from the University of Chicago, but he was in San Diego running, and we loved to run and talk physics and math and all sorts of stuff. And I asked him on his last day that he was there before he was heading back, I said, what in math is not true? And he said, everything in math is true. Everything in math is true. And he said, as long as you get past a couple of basic assumptions. And I was like, what? What assumption is that? He goes, well, like 1 + 1 = 2. That's a pretty big assumption. If you start to step back, that assumes that there's one thing that's different than one other thing, or that they even exist. So I said, if that turns out to be not true, what would happen? And he said, it would shatter my whole world. He loved math. And so everything is built on assumptions. And I love people that question stuff. And one guy that questioned stuff was an emergency room doctor that he was like, okay, we've been told, the scientists say that we're 70% or so water, maybe more than that even. And if you look at the number of molecules in our bodies, we're 99.9% water molecules compared to all the other molecules in our body. And yet, when people went into the ER with gaping wounds and big giant traumas, and yeah, there was blood all over the floor, but we weren't gushing water. People were not gushing water. So it's like, okay, you cut all these cells and destroy all the membranes of the cells. You would think if we're all this water, it would come gushing out, but it doesn't. And so then he looked, and there was a lot of science. There was some scientists that said, oh, wow, when you look at water, it can be liquid, it can be solid, ice, or it can be steam, gas. And every one of those has a different configuration. When you look deep into the molecular structure, it's different configurations. Like a snowflake is definitely different construction than steam, and definitely different than solid, than an ice cube. And there's interesting properties of water, like when it gets cold, it expands, so it can float. Most things that get cold and then turn into solid, they get denser. So he was kind of questioning, like, well, what's going on with the water in our body? Like, why is it not gushing out? Where is all this water? And like, you get a cut and it doesn't just gush out. I mean, blood gushes out because the blood vessels get cut, but water doesn't gush out. And so he started looking, and there's actually a fourth stage of water. Not just solid, not ice cubes, not just steam, gas, not just solid ice cubes. There's a fourth stage of water. And that fourth stage has a completely different molecular structure as well, just like the other types of water all look differently in their molecular structure, the way the geometric structure of it. And so he started investigating, and then he came into something about the heart and how the heart is pumping blood. And he thought, that's just weird that you have this heart that just has this enormous pressure, supposedly, that pumps it into the lungs, and then it comes back to the heart, and then it pumps it through the whole body into all these little capillaries, and then it gets pumped all the way back to the heart. And when he did the investigation of that, he was like, you would need an enormous, especially when you're going against gravity, enormous amount of force to get that to go. And when you pump from the heart to the lungs are very, very, very delicate structures, very delicate structures. And so you would destroy the lungs if it was pumping that much force, that was enough force to bring it back to the heart, enough force to bring it to the very tip of the toes, and then into the very little capillaries, and then back. So he found something else. And it's a much more elegant explanation of how blood moves through the body. And so I love people that take it to the next level and take it to the next level and take it to the next level and keep questioning and looking at stuff. So I've got two books that Jen just loves. I've read one of them. Jen has read both of them. She's given me the cliff notes on them. And it has all sorts of stuff in there about questioning all sorts of things. And, I showed this book once when I was on an airplane to a guy that does genetic research. I was sitting next to a professor that does the genetic research, and he has a kid that's about the age of my one of my boys. I thought, oh, this guy could be cool to hang out with. Maybe he was a runner, kind of cool stuff. And so I was telling him about it, and then he read the book, or the back cover of it, and he was like, oh man, that book would scare me. It would scare me to read this book because it sounds like it's an anti-vaccination book. And I thought, a scientist is scared to read about another scientist, doctor, questioning what he's been told and looking at the science? Scared? His words were, I would be scared to look at that. That's just weird, right? So, if you're the kind of person that's scared to look at what might blow your mind, then don't read books, or don't read these books. For sure, don't read these books. But if you're the kind of person that wants to look a little bit deeper and maybe look at some questions that you haven't thought about, that might make you go, huh, that's weird. Yeah. Why are we not gushing water? Or why didn't the ancient Egyptian people put any drawings on the wall about how they made a pyramid if they did that? So I'm going to show you two books. Here's one, Thomas Cohen, amazing dude. He's actually in San Francisco treating clients. And so there it is, Vaccines, Autoimmunity, and the Changing Nature of Childhood Illness, Thomas Cohen. So that's an amazing book about water, about the heart, about how things work in the body. And then this one is a book about a father who did tons of research of what's happening in the vaccine world. And so maybe it scares you, don't read it. Don't read it. But if you're interested, a lot of research, very, very much peer-reviewed medical research. There's no fake news. He references only peer-reviewed research. How to End the Autism Epidemic, J.B. Handley. So 2 really cool books. Don't read them. Don't read them if you don't want to question stuff. Don't read them if it scares you. Don't do anything you don't want to do. But if you're the kind of person that wants to question stuff, and just look for yourself. Just look for yourself. There's a lot of answers in there and a lot of really cool ways to start to look at what you've been told and just kind of look for yourself look for yourself. So if that's interesting to you, hope you grab them. And I'm going to do my video that came to me this morning when I was doing Qigong in just a little bit. So look for that in about 1 minute. All right. Bye now.